Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Can you see me? I just got a message that says Instagram is experiencing platform-wide issues. So we may not be able to stream on Instagram, but I'm not sure. But let me know where you see me. I should be on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Anyhow, if you don't even know who I am, like, who is this girl? I know, right? I'm Tenille. I help women who've been diagnosed with lupus go from confused and discouraged to healed, hopeful, and in control of the medical narrative. And today, on Monday, the 14th of July, we have an amazing guest. And I'm super excited. Like, I'm geeking out a little bit. It's crazy because this poor man has no idea who I am. However, I was watching his page, and I'm on the internet at like 2 a.m. crying over a stranger's Instagram. Like, this is a sad story. But like, he makes it seem so possible to have an amazing life after tragedy. And he's so new to this tragedy. It hasn't even been a year that I'm like, whoa, we need to get him on this show. And he lived on a farm, has 4 babies, and made time to come on the show. So if y'all don't show up for him, I'm gonna come find you myself because he don't have time for this, and he's making time for this. So please, everyone, give a warm welcome to Bryce Evans. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here, Bryce.
Thanks for having me.
So I don't know exactly if we're gonna be streaming everywhere, but you can repost it everywhere. Everyone needs to hear this story. Anyhow, please let the audience know who you are, where you're from, and what do you do.
Yeah, my name is Bryce Evans, and I'm from a small town called Puyallup, Washington. And I'm a father of 4 little kids. Cooper, who is 7, Kinsley is 6, Lainey 5, and Hallie will be 2 next month. And I was married to my wife for 9 years. It would be 10 years this August. And my wife was diagnosed with lupus in high school, but it was pretty dormant her whole life. And we started having babies, and she started to get a couple flares. And in October of last year, we took her to the hospital for a flare up, and she ended up getting overdosed by a nurse and passed away 2 days later. So here I am.
My gosh, you say it like this is a normal occurrence and everybody does that. Obviously, that happens to everyone. No, that's very out of the ordinary and like,
Yeah.
holy crap. So, okay, please, I need to understand when you say that she had dormant lupus, like when you met her and you were in high school, you knew she had lupus.
So I actually met her in the 7th grade. I think she was having like some health complications, and they couldn't quite figure out what it was. And I think that happens a lot with lupus. It's hard to kind of maybe diagnose it.
Right.
Um, and so I think they got her on some medication, but she had like terrible side effects, and so she got off it. And she was off medication, and um, you know, there was really no sign of lupus
Okay.
until really our 3rd baby. And it was a year after our 3rd baby, right at a year, she developed a flare that hospitalized her.
Hmm.
And they got her on steroids. She recovered pretty quickly, and then weaned off steroids, weaned off all medication. She ultimately didn't want to be on any medication.
Yeah.
And so then when we had our 4th baby, exactly at a year again, she had a flare. So we kind of thought it was maybe her hormones too that are kind of getting that flare going. And we
Yeah.
figured with this being our last baby, like maybe we can, we'll get it under control again. We're done having kids. We'll level out, all your body and everything, and kind of head the natural path route is what we were planning on going.
Yeah.
And so she was actually for about a month, kind of handling the flare at home, bed rest, wasn't
Mm-hmm.
getting worse, wasn't necessarily getting better. And then just one night she kind of it just wasn't it was just had been too long, like wasn't improving. It was just time, like I'm like we got to get you in, like we got to go in, you know.
Mhm.
And so they had ruled out some things that were kind of concerning. They didn't even think it was her lupus at first.
Mm.
And so once we kind of narrowed it down to her lupus, we are like, okay, like we've been here before, and so when they started treating the lupus, then everything kind of started to level out, and she started to turn the corner, and we were going to do it all outpatient, and so
Mm.
we were focused on moving home, and we were getting ready to be discharged that Monday, and that Saturday night is when she was overdosed. I probably elaborated on that question, but so
Yeah.
yeah.
No, this is, I mean, you dove in and I love it. So these are like two separate issues. First of
Yeah.
all, someone you know since the seventh grade, but you didn't really know the lupus still. Like you knew her. And still there wasn't really too much lupus activity going on. So you didn't understand how to like interact with that part of her. So like
Yeah.
when that first flare up came, how did you handle that? Like what were you thinking or feeling, or like were you scared? How did that go?
Um no, I think I've always trusted my wife and believed her, and here's the thing, my wife I'll say it to this day, she's the most honest person I've ever met. So
Hmm.
if Ash says, "Hey, you know, I think my leg's broken," I believe her that her leg's broken. Like, she's just really honest, and she was just really tough. And so if she's complaining about something, man, something's up, something's wrong.
Hmm.
And I understand maybe why that might be hard for some people, because it's hard to see, it's hard to know. But like, man, uh, those days, where she was bedridden and she was sore, and the days where she pushed through that with the kids, and I think I sometimes feel a little guilt when I think back, because I'm like, man, like it probably
Hmm.
was still even worse than how than I knew. And
It's hard to explain to people who aren't experiencing it though. So like don't ever feel bad for that, because it's you need words to articulate the feeling. Like this hurts could mean so many things on
sure.
so many different scales, because you could hit your elbow on something and be like, this hurts. But
Yeah.
like somebody with a high pain tolerance that you get over time with lupus saying something hurts, people don't get it. So like
Yeah.
don't feel anything about that. Like it's just human condition. Like you don't know what you don't know because you're not in the body. So
Yeah.
yeah.
She was also diagnosed about probably 3 years ago. That big flare up with her third baby, she was diagnosed with a disease called myasthenia gravis.
I know it.
So she one morning she'd woken up and her face had drooped. So I thought she had a stroke.
Yeah.
And there had been some stretches too where, I mean, Ash couldn't even lift her arms. So there was times where like I had to wash her hair or help bathe her because she just physically couldn't do it. And so I think, when she kind of got diagnosed with MG, it became more visible to me. The lupus was hard to, it wasn't, she would get the butterfly rash, but there wasn't a lot of visible signs. It was just her communicating to me like, hey, I'm starting to feel a flare coming, or,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. With the MG, it was like very physical, like just weakness. And so yeah, so there was, but yeah, I believed her, and um we just had to, as the father of the home and her husband, just continue to serve her in whatever that capacity looks like, whether she's healthy or sick, and love her through all that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's a side quest in my brain all the time. Like I'm like, I want to focus on your story about like coping with this stuff, but also the love story. Like it's just like you helped to wash her hair, and people do not understand. Like as a woman, you want to be able to take care of all the things, buzz around the house and do all the things, and then lupus comes along and is like, oh no, girl, you don't sit down. So to have somebody in your corner that is willing to do things like help you wash your hair and make sure your babies don't go like run off somewhere,
Yeah.
like it's having a partner like that is so important, especially with a chronic illness. I mean, everyone deserves and probably want something like that, but specifically to be chosen when you are somebody with a chronic illness is it's crazy. Like it's not easy because imagine being sick regular and growing up sick regular because since the seventh grade you've known her, and then uh regular dating is insane. Dating with a chronic illness is outrageous.
Yeah.
Um, so everybody pray for this man, protect him at all costs. Because I'm like, you signed up for a hard battle, friend.
Yeah.
So so she got diagnosed with I'm gonna say MG also. It's hard to
Yeah.
say.
MG. Yeah.
Grab it. So
Yeah.
somebody asked in the comments, is that Lou Gehrig disease? It is not. Well, I don't know what Lou Gehrig disease is, but I've never heard anybody call it that. I actually know a few people. It's a partner disease also that a lot of people do get when they have lupus. They do get diagnosed with that also. I'm gonna do a quick search so I can tell you what it is. But so she had 2 diagnoses now, 3 babies, and
Yep.
everything is going okay for a while.
Yeah. I
So
mean, she would recover pretty quickly. Like she was hospitalized so twice total for flares. Majority when her flares would come on, it'd be joint pain. She would. My wife just, I mean, she worked really hard. Like she was stubborn too, so she wouldn't let lupus like stop her from doing anything. She rode horses, she, mothered kids. Like she was a hard worker. And so even if I was like, "Hey, you should probably slow down today. It's, 85 degrees out and you're and she's just like, "Oh, heck no," that was just her personality.
yeah,
But yeah, so hospitalized twice, and then a lot of times too, like it was just getting tricky with how they were trying to treat the MG and lupus, like trying to treat them both, and yeah,
yeah, it's a
it
lot.
got
I
kind
mean,
of
like
complicated.
there's so many symptoms for both that
Yeah.
they do overlap, but like attacking the symptoms is crazy because they come on so strong and so quickly, and
Mm-hmm.
then they linger for so long. So I googled for people in the audience, myasthenia gravis uh, is a rare autoimmune disease that impacts neuromuscular systems.
Yeah.
Um, so it's basically really just painful, and like how her face was drooping, like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the control of your muscles like that. Like
No.
they're not. It's nerve and muscle connection basically is what
Yeah.
it's attacking.
It's
And
that communication from the nerve to the muscle receptor. So like there's just a miscommunication there.
mhm. So
Yeah.
a lot of symptoms, a lot of like pain and weird things. I had a family member who had myasthenia gravis, like when I was firstly diagnosed with lupus. So I didn't understand autoimmune anything. I was like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? So she recovered quickly from the flare up. So now we're talking about the like that in the hospital. I watched your
Yeah.
story time on like the actual night that all that went down.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you want to run me through that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So it was early October when she gets checked in the hospital, and I had the honor to be with her every day. So, I saw everything with my own eyes, um and so finally they ruled out some pretty scary things just off of blood work, what they thought might be happening. So once they got past that, hey, we do think it's her lupus. So they start to, high dose steroid. Her numbers start coming out, like she's leveling out. Physically, she looks even like turns a corner, looks okay. Whoa,
She's
she's
gorgeous,
cooking.
by the way. When she's
Yeah.
going,
Oh,
I was
beautiful.
like,
Yeah.
girl, like that's crazy.
Yeah. And so even, just conversations with nurses coming in that have been with her for 3 weeks. Wow, you look great today. Like, yeah, I'm feeling so much better. So just you could, we kind of okay. The room feels a lot lighter. We feel like okay, we've been here before,
Yeah.
right? We're done having kids. Like, okay, we're gonna get through this little stretch here. We'll be all right. And it was a Saturday night, and she had just got the it was the neurologist had just prescribed a new medication for for some MG stuff. Actually, is what it was, and she had taken the first dose that afternoon and felt better, like felt stronger, felt better, and then night nurse comes on, and the medication was supposed to be given every 8 hours. Um, she's going through like our night routine, everything, and gives medication, and Ash is very good at like knowing what she's putting in her body and being aware, and so that's why it's shocking that this happened to her. Like she was very on top of things, and um, so she takes her medication or whatever, and it was only a couple things, and I mean probably within 30 minutes, I'd say she looks at me and says something's not right,
Oh no.
and I said, "What do you mean?" She's like it's kind of getting hard to breathe. And so, I get the nurse in there, and she's, having some gnarly symptoms, starts coughing up this stuff, like pretty gnarly stuff. And uh she asked the nurse, she's like, what'd you give me? And the nurse kind of looks like physically a little, like she was kind of shaking a little, and just something seemed weird. And so
Mhm.
then at this time we don't know she's been overdosed at this time. And so
But the nurse knew,
uh
like,
oh, well, I think maybe. So then I I said, "Hey, can you look up the last time she was given that medication, that new medication?" And so she pulls the computer up, and it had been like less than 4 hours, or 4 hours, supposed to be 8 hours. So I'm thinking, oh crap, like, maybe she's having an allergic reaction or something to this medication, or was given too soon or whatever. So I said, "Hey, I remember the neurologist saying that was supposed to be every 8 hours. Like, why was that given to her in a 4 hour span?" And then she tries to like justify it. It made absolutely no sense. So I said, "Hey, can you get the charge nurse in here?" So then the charge nurse comes in, and I started explaining the situation. And I mean, Ashley's got diarrhea now at this point. She's coughing up this very dark like fluid. And I'm like, "Hey, something's not right here. Like, I don't know if she's having an allergic reaction or what." And so after they kind of start to do their investigation, they came back and they're like, "Hey, did she take the full pill?" And we're like, "Yeah." And so then they realized that it was a pill that was supposed to be cut, and it wasn't
oh,
cut, and it was given to her. So it was actually a double dose in half the time.
oh
And
my God.
so, I'm like, so I was concerned with like, hey, is there anything we got to be doing to like, reverse all this? Like, and they just kept saying we just have to let it ride. We have to let it ride. And so, I mean, the whole night, we were up the whole night. They did nothing. There's nothing they could do or whatever they said. And so the next day, basically what happened was it caused an infection in her lungs, which ultimately led to her death. So that next day I was with her. She was kind of calming down. She was pretty it was a pretty traumatic experience, through the night, and just the coughing, and it was terrible. And so she
Yeah.
starts to kind of calm down. We got moved floors, like got it set up, and it was like an old labor delivery room. She got to take a bath, so we're kind of, you know, calming down, processing what happened.
So,
She's
did anybody explain to you that like this could be life threatening? Like, did you think that
no,
that was? Oh,
no. So yeah, there was no. Oh, it'll be out of her system in 8 hours. Like she's, it was longer than that, and uh, yeah, no, there was no sign of like this could be fatal or this could be a problem or any of that. So we get to this old labor delivery room. We get kind of a fresh start. We're like, okay, it's Sunday now. We're gonna be leaving probably tomorrow. Like there was like actually one last thing they want to do. They just want to do like a little biopsy on her, like just liver, just to make sure. While we were there, like all the numbers were good and everything looked fine. So that was like our last thing to do before we were leaving. So takes a bath. She's starting to kind of come back, because she was like, I mean, man, she looked. It was kind of concerning how stressed and traumatic she looked that next morning. Like it was, lack of sleep, all the being overdose, all that. So uh Sunday rolls around and I went and checked on the kids Sunday afternoon, and then I come back and Sunday evening, and we're getting ready for bed, and she starts to complain like, I'm not, like, I've got pain, and she's like just saying kind of all over, and so they gave her some medicine, and then a couple times I helped her up to the bathroom that night and was just kind of rubbing her back, and it was probably about 2 a.m. I think, and I had a chair right next to her, so I'm laying there, and she just she's kind of like groaning, like she doesn't feel like she does not feel good, and she'd been complaining too about her lungs, like, I'm having trouble breathing, and they had her on like a little bit of oxygen, and they kept like turning that up, and then I hear her kind of make a noise, like a groan noise, and I see her just tense up, like she just tightens up, and so I jump up and I run around, and it's dark, and I can just see the glow of the computer, and her eyes just look like glazed over. So I started rubbing her chest. I'm like, Ash, Ash, Ash. So I knew instantly, like, oh, like we're in cardiac arrest. So I run down the hall, and there's like, can't find a nurse. Finally, I find one at the nurse station, and I said, hey, I don't think my wife's breathing. And she just kind of looks up, and I said, hey, I don't think my wife's breathing. And I take off back down the hall to the room and flip the lights on, and she comes in after me, and the nurse was rattled, like, and so I kind of look at her like, hey, we got to start compressions. Like, what's your protocol? What do you do in this situation? And she's like, Ash, Ash, Ash. And I said, hey, like, do you need me to do them? And
Oh my
so
god.
then she's frantically looking. Then she finds there's a little pad on the wall. She hits the code blue. And so the trauma team comes in and they start CPR. And it was 18 minutes. They find a pulse, and then they lose it. And then it was another 20 minutes. And then they find a pulse. Then they get a heart rate. So they move her from there to the ICU, and then so we're up at the ICU for probably 2 hours, and it's just on and off, and her body just it was done, and so they pronounced her deceased, and um, the doctor up there looked at me and said, she's just been getting worse her entire stay, and the lupus finally got to her lungs, and I said, that's bullshit. I said, I've been here every single day. And I said, you guys overdosed her 2 nights ago, and here we are. And the hospital kind of got weird after that. They didn't want to do an autopsy. They locked me out of her, like, her my chart, which was like all her medical stuff. They wouldn't give me her medical records. And
Wait a
so,
minute. I
yeah,
just went from about to cry to about to punch a wall. What do you
yeah,
mean? What do you mean? How do they wait? So you went home and tried to log onto her my chart and it just wouldn't let you?
yeah. I was like, yeah, like, you're locked out, basically, is what, like, there was like a little message saying, like I had full access to her
Before.
my chart, and then I didn't, and um so obviously I got a lawyer team, pretty good lawyer team here in the area, and they handle medical malpractice. That's what they do. And the problem is we're not going to have a case, and we
What do
have
you
like
mean?
3 or 4 different doctors looking at it, and they all just are saying different things, and it's very complicated, and it's hard to prove medical malpractice in a legal court. Like, these doctors and these hospitals and these big corporations, they're protected, and yeah, it's a damn shame, but I refuse to get caught up in that bitterness and that anger, because, one, it's not honoring to Ash. Two, I know what it'll do to my life. And
Right.
three, I got 4 little babies that are watching how dad handles grief and trauma and loss, and so I have to be very careful in how I steward this, and I have so much. I've said this from the start. This this doesn't end with Ashley. Like this starts with Ashley's story, but it's not going to
Yeah.
end here. We're
Yeah.
gonna impact way too many people for it to stop here, and God's going to use this in ways where this is just the start. And so I could get angry and mad and say I'm going to fight the medical system my whole life, and probably it's going to be a dead end road. And so I'm going to go in other lanes and find ways where I can love people and help people and tell her story and honor her, and that's going to be life-giving. It's going to impact people, and it's going to be a way that God can take, these ashes and make beauty out of them.
You are, you have like so much grace about it. Like I'm genuinely angry about it, and it's not my family, it's a stranger, the internet's family. And I just like I saw an Instagram post you made about the top 3 things that are like the top killers in the US
Yeah.
is like heart disease, cancer, and then medical malpractice.
Yeah.
And that is crazy because you were right there. It's
Yeah.
not like you weren't visiting in the hospital. They knew you were there. And they are still sticking up for their people, which like God bless the medical people, because I know they work really long shifts and they're tired and they are hungry and they have to pee and the whole thing. Like I get they're human beings and they're being stretched to their absolute limits. However, I don't see how no one's being held responsible. Like
Yeah.
I don't see how like you posting all these things is advocating for people who are dealing with medical malpractice, but like
And
I want a
you know,
Superman
for
story.
me it's like this isn't a fight that I'm necessarily just saying, "Oh, I'm sure there's going to be a day down the road where I'm fighting for more medical malpractice causes and using our story in that capacity." I think
Mhm.
for now, I'm getting ready to start a nonprofit and in a wedding venue in my wife's honor. And so that to me is like these are priorities that, I want to get done and healthy, and I'm sure down the road there's a day where I am, going to bat for people who've been wronged. And yeah, I think a big thing is just when, like you said, you probably didn't know that medical error or medical malpractice is the third leading cause of death in our country. And to
No,
me,
and
that doesn't sit right. Like we live in America, we live in a place where we have high education, high facilities, like, and the situation with my wife was just it was just a lack of like being aware, or it was very preventable. Like, I mean, there's
yeah,
systems in place where, I know nurses at that hospital where it's like, I mean, we have like an eight checklist thing to make sure like that doesn't happen. So it's just, they're very preventable, and unfortunately, it's happening every single day. And the problem with it though is this: there's just no accountability. So that nurse probably didn't even get written up because that would prove fault.
right,
And so if you take any other industry in business and there's errors like this, there's accountability. If a truck
right.
driver is driving down the road and he hits a kid on a bike, there's going to be accountability there. If
Mhm.
someone builds a skyscraper in Seattle and it falls down because it was built wrong, like there's accountability. And for
Yes, there
some
should
reason,
be.
in the medical field, it's just like there's absolutely no accountability. And so I think what needs to change is legislation and the way these laws are written and how they're protected. And I think maybe one day down the road when I'm at a place of high capacity, I can go after that. But I got to like I said, I got to just have to steward this season in a healthy way, because
Right.
I got 4 little sets of eyes that are watching dad.
Yeah.
and
You have a
and
not even 2-year-old. That's insane to me. You're like, oh, this is my baby child, and also like, you
yeah.
know, all these other things I'm doing with my life. So I I want to say that you telling your story on the internet, here, on your page, everywhere that anyone's going to ask you to speak from forever until forever, okay, is advocating. It is
Yeah.
talking about it. It is letting people know that like this is happening, because I definitely didn't. I'm I'm in this like elbow deep into my journey, like of medical everything, and I did not know that. Okay, so
Yeah.
the attitude that you have towards it is not only, it's not only your kids watching you, like we are all watching you. Like this is the attitude I pray to have, like for bad things that happen. And like I get like, do you meditate? Like how did you what is it that what is it? This is like just God? This is just like
Uh, I
calm?
mean, I think yeah, that's a great question, and it's a hard one to answer, but yeah, I think the grace of God. I mean, man, God's been so faithful and so near to me, and uh, He knows suffering, like
Mhm.
He's near the brokenhearted, and yeah, I think a lot of it is God's grace. I think too.
Yeah.
I grew up. I wrestled at a fairly high level, like I was gonna go to college and wrestle, and so I think that sport taught me a lot of mental toughness. And
Mm.
so I've never struggled personally with just truth and being honest with myself, like what the situation is, where I'm at in life. I just don't. I just don't think anything good is going to come from having a victim mindset or a poor me mindset or, uh, you know, why God, why me, like. And so I just refuse to take that posture. Um, I might have moments where I wrestle with that, but and then I think, you know, I've started to kind of wrestle with what's a healthy man look like.
Mm.
And so I think, I think a healthy man is honest. So being honest with where I'm at, being honest with my feelings, being honest with our situation, being honest with the kids, being, building this thing on just complete truth and I think walking through this life as honest as I can be. I
Yeah.
think too a healthy man is vulnerable. So I've been dealt a very tough situation. And so how can I surrender this thing and allow God to use me, and how can I be completely honest and vulnerable so that somehow this can impact people or affect people. And I think I thought, when this happened, one of the things I thought of was like, in 25 years from now, if I don't handle this thing and go through this and feel it and heal from this, what good am I to a 25-year-old kid who loses his wife and is sitting across the table from me? How can I
Right.
look him in the eyes and say, "Hey, there's hope," or whatever? And so being vulnerable has helped me heal, I think, and I think it's helped people. And so
Oh,
I'm just going to
yeah.
continue to be honest about my life and open and vulnerable. And I think through all this, I've realized that men don't know how to communicate their feelings. Men don't know how to be honest with where they're at, and men are struggling and they don't want to admit it. And it's just time, enough's enough as men, and we got to start getting honest and start getting healthy.
Yes.
So
I just, amen. Okay, Bryce, like this is the meat of it. Like the position that we're put in throughout our lives, like as hard as they can be, is to come to, the realizations of these things. Like you are on a mission now. Like you're you're not being picked on, you've been picked to like
yeah,
steward this man movement that's like people are hurting and they're silent about it. People are losing their
yeah,
minds. People are, crushed under this weight. And you are somebody who's going to be shining the light. You are already shining the light on the fact that you can be the manliest of men
yeah,
on a farm and have four babies and have, love, genuine love for your wife and honor her memory and be a good human being. And it's the manliest of things. Like love somebody who is not all the way healthy all the time and
yeah,
be there for them solid in the hospital, taking their final breath. Like all of these things, the manliest of things. And people really do think sometimes that they're too cool or like they're not supposed to do this and they're not supposed to do that. That's not what it's about. The
yeah,
roles are not in concrete. Like these are the role is love your wife, love your husband,
yeah.
be there for your family. And that is exactly what you're doing. And you're showing other people how to do it. And I commend you, my friend. You are just You are doing God's work, legit. Like, I cannot say it more in any other kind of way. Like, you are doing God's work, and I'm very proud of you. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't. For me, it's a high calling in my eyes. Like this story, my response. Like I don't take it lightly, and I think, man, I just think you can never waste like a moment of suffering. What God can do in the midst of suffering, like I think
Mhm.
it's a damn shame to waste that and to waste your grief. Like I said, I mean, he's been really faithful and near, um and I've been a man of faith for a long time and a believer, and this season of life, like I've encountered him in ways that I've never encountered him, and it's a double truth I talk about. Like, I've got deep pain, but I've got peace that surpasses all understanding. And
Mm.
it's just, you read scriptures, and in this season of life there's a lot of scripture that makes a lot of sense, and you read past it maybe before, and it's like I'm experiencing a peace that I just can't put words to. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
Mm.
and so I'm thankful for that. It's a
Amen.
bummer of what I had to go through to
Right.
to to get there, but Ashley's in a good place. Ashley's healed. She's at peace, and
Mhm.
uh more loved than I could have ever loved her, more healed than a doctor could get her, and
Yeah.
she's home. And so, that's where we're headed, and this world's gonna pass. It's gonna go like that, and we'll be home, and so it's just keeping a healthy perspective on things, and a believer perspective, and
Yeah.
deep faith, and I live by faith and not by sight, and so Ashley's in a good place.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much. So,
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap this up. I want to make sure you get a chance to talk about the nonprofit that you're building, and explain how that's going and what's the plan so people can follow along.
Yeah, so our nonprofit's called Ashes to Gardens, and we were going to start a flower farm this spring, like cut flowers, and so I started it. And the motto of our nonprofit, the saying is helping families bloom through heartbreak. So we're going to be geared to helping families who've lost a parent. So we're going to help in three specific ways: financially, so whatever, meeting financial needs, practical needs. We're just going to step in and show up.
Mhm.
Education, so whether that's daycare, whether that's paying for a private school, scholarshiping kids, whether the kids are older and they want to go to a trade school or college, like finding ways to help their education, maybe after school programs, whatever. And then like the mental health side of things, I think uh I don't want to be a nonprofit that shows up in the darkest days of their life and then we're gone, or
Right.
a pat on our back. We showed up, and I want it to be a lifelong journey, and I believe mental health is that. And so we're going to be a bridge to help people through the grieving process, through counseling, therapy, group grief, children's grief, just
Wow.
finding ways to hold people's hand along that journey. And so whether that is all created in house, we have our own in house mental health
Mhm.
professionals, or we just bridge the gap. So right now we have our core team, and we're setting kind of our board, and we're approved by the state, and so we're going to hard launch it in October on the anniversary of Ash's death, so her 1 year
Only gonna
anniversary.
be 1 year. It's only
Yeah.
gonna be 1 year in October. That's
Yeah.
wild.
I just have this saying that grief can become a prison, or it can become your purpose. And so
Whew.
I refuse to just be prisoned by our story and shackled by it. And so for me, it's just field purpose. And so it's how can we love people, and how can we use this for the good of God's work and His
Mhm.
kingdom. And that's the only way it's going to get good. And so I
Right.
think when I look back, if I have another 20 years, 30 years, 40 years on this earth, and I look back and watch what God does when we just surrender our life and say, use
Mhm.
us.
I'm gonna
So
make a T-shirt that says "Grief can be a prison or a purpose." Hello, that
yeah,
is wild. Okay, thank you so much for that, and
yeah,
all the best on this endeavor. Like, I'm praying for you, and I hope that everything works out just perfectly, like better than you could ever even imagine. Okay,
yeah,
and if you need us to rally in any way, you know, the
yeah,
Lupis, we're
yeah,
strong people. We
yeah.
will get behind
Fighters.
this. So keep us updated and keep us up to date on what's going on, if, what you need, what
Yeah,
we're praying on for you guys. Like, just, we'll be following along, and that's an amazing calling that you have. And like, again, I'm just so proud of you, and thank you so much for being here. We're gonna end now, guys. Oh, wait, you're right. My people in my comments. What about comments? Yes. Okay, hold on a second. One second. So I'm gonna scroll up. Welcome, a lot of welcomes. Uh Tough shares, sir. Thank you for sharing your story. Wonderful of you to reflect on her honesty and work with you in the family. Uh Beautiful wisdom here. Thank you for sharing. Value. Love this. Ton of value each time. Keep going. Thank you both. God bless you, Bryce. Thank you so much for sharing. How heartbreaking. This is all so hard to hear. The negligence and cover up is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Kudos to you and respect, sir. That attitude and his altitude fly you high above in your tragedy. The attitude and his altitude. Okay, God's altitude. Got it.
mhm.
Um, What's a healthy man look like? Great reflection and self-inquiry value. I agree that we men need to get better and better and be better. Yes, Tenille, the manliest of things. Yeah, I'm not a man, but I know. Amazing and helpful and healing podcast today, Tenille and Bryce. Thank you both. Grief can become your prison or your purpose. Okay. Yes. Okay. Write it on a shirt. I need to see it on a shirt. Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, and another God bless you. Hi, Auntie. God bless you. Okay. Thank you so much for being here again. And we're gonna have all of his socials, his Instagram is what I have for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, in all of the places, so you can follow him and follow his journey. He posts really great stuff. I say go back and look at the stuff he's posted already. Really heartwarming, heartbreaking. Like, it's a great page. And we got him first, like before he blows up, because I know he's gonna be famous, and I don't know if I'll be able to use it then. So thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day, and we will talk soon. See you next week. Stay happily healed. Bye. And